Okay, imagine walking into a house party in 1972, and among the attendees are John Candy, Catherine O'Hara, Dan Aykroyd, Martin Short, and Eugene Levy, just to name a few. These parties were known as the Friday night services, and they began during the Toronto run of Godspell in 1972, which featured eventual stars and then unknowns Short, Levy, Gilda Radner, Andrea Martin, Jane Eastwood, Paul Schaefer, and Lord of the Rings composer Howard Shore in the band, and Victor Garber. Between 1972 until 1974, roommates Martin Short, Dave Thomas, and Eugene Levy lived at 1063 Avenue Road, a detached brick house in Toronto. According to Dave Thomas's book SCTV Behind the Scenes, after Short, Thomas, and Levy moved out, the apartment was then rented by Second City Stage Company director and eventual producer of SCTV, Sheldon Patinkin, who lived there for a year. After that, John Candy rented 1063 with his eventual wife, Rose, between 1976 and 1980. Just take a moment to soak in what that means. That means that for almost a decade, someone tied to the SCTV group of comedy legends lived in that house. As such, the parties that happened there on any given week could feature the likes of all the people I previously mentioned, as well as folks like Joe Flaherty, Bill Murray, and John Belushi. 1063 Avenue Road is this hidden gem of Canadian comedy history. So much so that the Toronto Star did a full piece on the legend of the place in 2017, and listings today are quick to begin their descriptions of the home by saying, "If these walls could talk," citing the SCTV history of it as a huge selling point. Dan Aykroyd has gone on record saying the place should have a plaque on it. And go figure, according to Thomas, parties on Avenue Road were incredibly social and a huge display of raw, unfiltered talent. The funniest people in the industry gathered in one room with a haze of smoke in the air, drinks pouring, character voices and impressions, and music abounding. The upcoming documentary You Had to Be There about the famed Toronto Godspell production also features Martin Short's original audio recordings from those nights. And it is absolutely incredible to hear the young voices of these comedy legends as they partied and created together at the very beginning of their careers. According to Short, Paul would play the keys, he'd sing, Gilda would sing. Characters that we've come to know of and love were developed at those parties. Schaefer would play as Short would riff in what would eventually become his lounge singer, Jackie Rogers Jr.
Jackie, we hardly knew ye.
The group would play a game in which they'd riff along to Albert Brooks's comedy album, Comedy -1, which became a sort of initiation for first-timers at the parties, as Catherine O'Hara remembered in an article for The Walrus.
Now we come to the section called Comedy -1.
The album featured scripts in the liner notes, and Albert would say a line on the recorded album, and then it would be your cue to say the next line. It was an opportunity for the group to perform for each other, and as O'Hara said, someone would put the album on and go, "Hey, first time here? Why don't you come over here and try this album?" There, Martin Short and Gilda Radner dated off and on, before Short would eventually date Nancy Dolman, Gilda's understudy, who would go on to become his wife. Eugene Levy also met his wife, Deb Devine, at the Avenue Road parties. No one had any concept of just how famous almost everyone in that apartment on any given night would eventually become. Writer James Kaplan wrote in The New Yorker that Toronto at the time, and that particular group that surrounded 1063 Avenue Road, was one of those rare nexuses that crop up every so often, like Paris in the 1920s, LA in the 30s, London just before the First World War. And it's easy to imagine what those parties might have been like. The way the personalities would have gelled together, the way that they would have made each other laugh hard, and the buzz of creativity in the air. It's one of those if you had a time machine answers that I've always kept in my back pocket. 1063 Avenue Road in the 1970s, it's right there on the list.